Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we're stepping into a world that, officially speaking, does not exist. We're going to put you directly into the shoes of a recruit navigating the chilling 10-stage progression of a CIA Black Ops career, exactly as it's outlined in our source material. I want you to imagine sitting at your computer, filling out a completely mundane form on a government website. You click submit and you wait. 6 months later, you're flying to Virginia, on your own dime, by the way, to sit in a sterile building with fluorescent lights and terrible coffee. You're facing a man in a gray suit who is hunting for patterns in your past. You are stepping into a totally different reality. Our source describes this entire career path as exactly that, a machine that runs on secrets and blood. And we're going to explore this grueling 10-step descent. You start right at level 1, the applicant. During this 4-hour profile interview, you're peppered with questions that might seem random at first. They're asking about your upbringing, languages, past drug use, arrests, things like that. But believe me, they are highly calculated. If you manage to pass this initial filter, you immediately face the most daunting hurdle yet. The polygraph. They strap you in and hit you with terrifying questions like, have you ever committed a crime you weren't caught for? The strap tightens across your chest, a cuff squeezes your arm, and you're sitting in this windowless room with a man whose face gives away absolutely nothing. Here's the truly terrifying part that the source highlights. The machine doesn't actually detect lies. Not at all. It measures stress, arousal, and discomfort. But because you don't know that, and because the machine feels totally omniscient, you end up confessing to small, stupid things you buried years ago to a man who literally never blinks. But if you survive him, you get a letter. You're accepted. Which brings us to level 2, the trainee. You're sent to Camp Perry, Virginia, which is a massive 9,000-acre facility surrounded by razor wire, locally known as the farm. The washout rate here is a massive 40%. Why so high? Well, because over the next 18 months, you are subjected to extreme psychological pressure. We're talking intense sleep deprivation, staged interrogations, and a solid 72 hours of gaslighting just to see if you can function when reality itself feels completely unreliable. The ones who survive aren't necessarily the strongest physically. They're the ones who can perfectly compartmentalize their lives. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how you learn actual tradecraft. Because beyond lockpicking and losing a tail in a department store, you're learning how to recruit assets. You study psychology and manipulation to convince people to betray their own countries. You do this using the MICE methodology. The agency believes everyone is motivated by one of 4 things: money, ideology, coercion, or ego. Your entire job is to figure out which one drives your target and then exploit it. Moving on to Section 1, which covers levels 3 and 4, the field and mastering deception. Once you graduate, you hit the field and enter level 3, the case officer. You are posted to an embassy in Eastern Europe. Officially, you're just a political attaché in an uncomfortable suit making small talk over warm champagne. But unofficially, you are evaluating targets the way a surgeon studies an X-ray. Let's walk through this chilling timeline. Say you spot a middle-level bureaucrat with gambling debts. Month 1, you approach him at a casino, buy him a few drinks, become his friend. Over the next half year, you slowly manufacture a dependency, loaning him money cent by cent until he's suddenly $50,000 in debt to you. By month 8, you finally ask for a little favor, just a few internal memos. He has no choice, and he's been agreeing for months without even recognizing it. You've recruited an asset, and as the source notes, you eat dinner that night feeling absolutely nothing. So the crucial point is understanding the difference in how you're protected. As a case officer, you have official cover, meaning diplomatic immunity. If you get caught, you just get expelled. But if you accept a promotion to level 4, you become a NOC, non-official cover. This is without a doubt the most dangerous, unprotected job in intelligence. You have no badge, no embassy, and 0 diplomatic protection. If you are caught, the US government will simply deny you exist, and you're left to face local laws. In this line of work, that often means prison, torture, or an unmarked grave. Living as a NOC means adopting a legend, which is a completely fake identity. You might pretend to work for a fake consulting firm, and you have to live this cover 24/7. Your neighbors, your girlfriend, your parents, none of them know the truth. You communicate entirely through dead drops, like leaving a chalk mark on a wall or a package under a park bench. You sleep with a packed bag and a fake passport tucked under your mattress, constantly checking your reflection in windows. As the slide says, you are operationally, existentially, and structurally alone. If you die, the CIA officially denies you ever existed, and the truth of who you were dies right along with you. All right, let's look at Section 2, Levels 5 and 6, the kinetic reality. But what happens when that fragile cover fractures? Let's say you're in Beirut, and a local intelligence service gets suspicious of a parked car and a camera lens catching the light. You are immediately pulled out. You're debriefed in a windowless room, and your career shifts violently into Level 5, the paramilitary officer in the Special Activities Division, or SAD. You leave all that subtle deception behind for direct, violent action. You undergo 6 months of the most intense military training on the planet, taught by former Delta Force and SEAL operators. You master close-quarters combat, high-altitude free-falling from 30,000 feet, combat diving, and SIR training, where they actually confine you in a box for days just to teach you what real captivity feels like. They don't care about your slick recruitment skills anymore. They only care if you can clear a room without getting your team killed. Your first mission drops you into a mud compound in Afghanistan, eating goat with local militia fighters whose loyalties are, well, pretty fluid. You're out there calling in Hellfire missiles, but the source material details the really horrific weight of this job. Sometimes the intelligence is just wrong. You might watch a strike hit the wrong building, women, children, families just eating dinner, simply because a grid coordinate was off by 200 meters. The devastating collateral damage is very real. And afterward, you receive a medal that doesn't even have your name on it, for a mission that never officially occurred, in a country where you were never officially present. Surviving SAD brings you to Level 6 Team Leader. You were deployed to a disintegrating Libya with an 8-man unit to secure chemical weapons before terrorists can get their hands on them. Operating on maybe 2 hours of sleep, you're out there bribing commanders and interrogating prisoners until you finally locate and incinerate 15 tons of mustard gas. The smoke rises thick and black. But on your last night, the chaos catches up with you. You're ambushed in a side street. You have to carry a bleeding teammate half a mile to an extraction helicopter, but he doesn't make it. The heavily sanitized letters you write to his grieving family speak of service and a grateful nation, but they are total letters of omission. You can never mention Libya, the mustard gas, or that fatal, bloody half-mile carry. This brings us to Section 3, covering Levels 7, 8, and 9, the weight of command. So after 15 brutal years in the field, you reach Level 7, Station Chief. By age 42, your body's broken, your marriage is completely over, and you are gambling with international incidents while sleeping about 4 hours a night to manage hundreds of assets. And this brilliantly illustrates what comes next at Level 8, Black Site Commander. You're sent to run a secret, non-existent prison holding high-value detainees who have no lawyers, no rights, and no official existence. Your job is to extract intelligence using enhanced interrogation. The source acutely notes this is a highly sterile phrase designed by lawyers specifically to occupy the gray space between what the law strictly prohibits and what the government actively requires. You oversee extreme sleep deprivation and waterboarding, brutal techniques made retroactively legal by Justice Department memos written by people sitting in comfortable offices back home. Being at the black site creates this crushing psychological duality. On one hand, you constantly tell yourself that these brutal methods are necessary, that the information genuinely saves lives. And some nights, you actually believe it. But on other nights, you lie awake just staring at the ceiling, utterly uncertain if you are still among the people doing the right thing, or if that distinction lost all meaning a long, long time ago. By Level 9, you're back where it all started in Virginia, as a division director. Every single morning, you walk past the white marble memorial wall at Langley. On it are 139 stars. No names, just stars. Some of them belong to your former colleagues, some belong to your friends. You now sit at the top, controlling hundreds of officers, thousands of assets, and billions of dollars in black budget funding, money that officially doesn't exist. Your days are now spent in the Situation Room and in highly classified, closed congressional hearings. When senators ask you pointed questions about covert operations or drone strikes, you give them answers that are technically true but carefully incomplete. The source explains this bureaucratic reality perfectly. The politicians don't actually want the messy details. What they really want is plausible deniability. And as the division director, it is your job to give it to them, making sure that machine of secrets and blood keeps running smoothly. Let's move to and see how this builds in our final stage, Section 4, Level 10, the Ghost. After 30 years, you finally retire. You receive the Distinguished Intelligence Cross, which you immediately have to put in a box in your closet, and you sign endless non-disclosure agreements. Speaking the truth of your own life is now literally a federal felony. You move to a quiet house in Virginia, profoundly isolated and entirely alone with your memories. The operation's gone wrong, the collateral damage, the intense interrogations. You can't explain your physical scars to anyone. You can't explain to your neighbors why you obsessively check the locks 3 times a night, or why you wake up at 3 a.m. to walk the perimeter of your yard looking for threats that aren't even there. None of what you did officially happened. You are officially a ghost. Which brings us to our final haunting question for today. As you sit there alone in the dark, a hollowed-out ghost, burdened by a career that didn't happen, somewhere else, a young, naive college kid is logging onto the exact same website you did 30 years ago. They're dreaming of romanticized spy tropes, adventure, and serving their country. But do they have any idea about the polygraph, the grueling gaslighting at the farm, the manufactured debts, the black sites, or those nameless stars carved into the marble wall? They don't know what they are truly signing up for, but as our source concludes, they'll learn. They always do. Thanks so much for joining me for this Explain.